Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Can you see my screen? Okay, class, let's get started.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know. A Washington state resident fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China, where the outbreak began. Officials now say more than 400 people have been sickened and 9 people have died.
During the first part of the new year, Eckstein Middle School students and staff were focused on completing semester 1 with good grades, celebrating the winning streak of the boys' basketball team, and trying to figure out how to spend the upcoming midwinter break in February. The daily morning announcements were filled with tidbits such as talent show application request, musical auditions, sports tryouts, and Saturday school dates. Still, an undercurrent of concern flowed through the school as COVID infections around the nation continued to rise. On February 27, 2020, a high school in Bothell, a Seattle suburb, closed for 2 days when a family member of an employee fell ill after returning from travel abroad. 2 days later, COVID infections and deaths began to mount at a nursing care facility in Kirkland, Washington. More Washington schools started to close due to COVID exposures. Even as COVID infections continue to grow around the country and around the world, March at Eckstein began as it did every year, with St. Patrick's Day decorations and a celebration of Women's History Month. On the morning of March 2, 2020, Principal Kristen Rose used announcements to discuss the potential COVID pandemic, how to personally limit the spread of the virus, and what actions Eckstein Middle School was taking to keep students and staff healthy. On March 10, 2020, 2 Seattle schools had to close due to a reported case and exposure to COVID-19. Messaging went out to families detailing how Eckstein was trying to keep the building infection-free.
There is a need to close. Educators are putting together packets of learning materials. There's a lot of talk about online learning that for us would be an equity issue, particularly for students who may not have computers or internet at home. And so we are working with our educators that they would put packets of learning together and be able to take those home. Of course, our top priority always is safety and security of our students, so we want to make sure that's taken care of.
So on March 11th, we were speculating that at any point our school district, like others before us, specifically North Shore School District, was the first in the region to go into remote learning. We were waiting to see what our district was going to do. So at about, I want to say it was in the 10 o'clock hour, I got a call from my Director Halfacre, saying the call's been made. We are going to head into remote learning for 2 weeks. And I remember it took my breath away. And it seemed like an overwhelming challenge ahead of us. How are we going to keep the education moving forward for our students? At that point, I knew I needed to create a message to staff to let them know. I needed to do an intercom announcement to students, letting them know. It was a lot. It was very emotional and heavy and stressful.
Good afternoon, staff and students. This is Principal Rose. As many of you have probably heard, the Seattle School District has decided that to help the stop of the spread of the coronavirus, all Seattle Public Schools will be closed for at least the next 14 days beginning tomorrow. We are finishing out the afternoon today as scheduled. Let's remain calm, as focused as possible, and end strong today. This does not mean that there have been confirmed cases of the virus among the staff and students at our school. This is being done out of an abundance of caution. During the closure period, all school buildings will be closed to staff and students. Everyone needs to take everything home with them this afternoon. This includes coats, binders, lunch boxes, and your schoolwork. Let's also clean out our lockers this afternoon. We're going to give you time to do this at 2:20 p.m. today at the very end of period 6. Garbage cans will be in the hallways. As you clean out, students, you will need to report back to period 6 for dismissal at 2:30 p.m. We will make an additional announcement at 2:20 p.m. today about this clean out. Volleyball tryouts tonight are canceled, as are all practices, tryouts, and games until further notice. Please take good care of yourselves, practice good hygiene, wash those hands. This is a historic moment, and I appreciate the wonderful community that we have here at Eckstein during times like this.
I think I thought what everybody thought. I think I was like, oh great, 2 extra weeks of spring break. This is awesome. Like, I can't wait. And it was all kind of, I remember taking a video in school that I'm actually really glad I took, like after school got out, and everyone was like, Coronacation, like, yeah, let's go. Can't wait to hang out. And I look back on it and I'm like, oh God, little did we know, like, here we are 7 months later, and we're still on Coronacation. So yeah, I think I thought that.
I was pretty happy because I thought like school was gonna be easier and we would have like more time to hang out with friends and stuff.
My first thought was I was terrified because I thought it was going to eat away my summer, because I love my summers. So I was like, oh no, we're going to have to go into July.
I thought about it, and they were like, it'll just be 2 weeks, but you won't be allowed back into the building. Like, just go home. And I thought, I don't think we're going to go back. I just have a feeling.
Well, I realized, when they said we'd be gone for 2 weeks, I expected 2 weeks because there weren't many COVID cases in Seattle yet, and it didn't really seem like a big deal, and it kind of just seemed like, not like a joke, but it didn't seem real enough.
I was excited because, like, to be off from school, but I didn't think we'd be gone for this long.
I'm going to get golfing, and I'm taking a nice little break. I'm going to be honest. I thought we'd be back and 2 week pause, and I was like, okay, kids are going to do this, and we'll figure it out as we go.
And it was shocking. I think I was just like, wow, this has never happened in my whole teaching career. So I think it was really tough at first. Yeah.
I had been kind of expecting that we'd be impacted for a little while before that. So it was like, any day now, we're going to go into closure any day now, any day. And when it actually happened, it was kind of emotional. It was like, oh, wow, this is really serious. This is impacting us. And it was fear and, anxiety and all of those things. Like, it was emotional for me to read that we were going to close. It was like an emergency.
What I thought immediately was, we're not going home for 2 weeks. It's not going to be a vacation. It's going to be longer than that. Having heard the news and following the news, And I mentioned that actually to my period 5, which was a 7th and 8th grade class. And they were like, yay! Oh my God, this is so great! Oh, fun! And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm hoping I do see you in 2 weeks, but I have a really bad feeling. So I was not psyched at all. I was heartbroken, actually. Now I'm going to start crying.
They said, once you left the building, like you might not be able to come back for 2 weeks. And so I remember grabbing like books that I would need for read aloud and papers and materials. And I was taking just as much stuff as I could because I was thinking, well, you know, then of course, once it got into being longer, we were allowed to come back in, and we had to get computers and, you know, all kinds of stuff that was just like, we just weren't prepared. So yeah, I guess my emotion experience there was probably nervousness more than anything, because I just wasn't sure what was going to happen.
The impending escalation of the pandemic helped staff and families understand why closing buildings at this time was prudent. Few grasped the idea that students were headed into a year-long remote learning experience.
In order to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 in our state, today I make the very difficult decision to order closures of schools in Snohomish, King, and Pierce counties.
School buildings remain shuttered. Now playgrounds, playfields, and parks would be closed. The streets became eerily empty as everyone stayed home to stay healthy.
So it was overwhelming. How do we keep our relationships up? How do we make sure students are fed? The first weeks of school, I was transporting school lunches out of the back of my vehicle to our housing communities. So it was a lot of on the ground, what do we know needs to happen, and let's make it happen.
As staff and families absorbed the reality of the pandemic, Eckstein adopted the motto, "Together we got this," in a shared sense of responsibility, community, and appreciation.
So when I heard we were not going to be back in the building, I mean, it was heavy. I remember getting chills, just thinking, how are we going to do this? We were not trained up on Teams yet. We knew it was out there, but didn't know how we could have live sessions with students. There were district protocols that came into place initially that teachers needed to email their parents and students. Well, actually, it was just the parents. We didn't have student emails up and running at that time, but they needed to email parents twice weekly. So we learned really quick to pull back on our emails and just have teachers communicate once a week with what their learning targets or objectives were, and then what the agenda for the week was and what needed to be accomplished as far as homework for the student.
Later, I think it was like a week and a half into the 2-week break, I don't know, I was a little scared, like more, worried about how people were going to adjust and how we were going to adjust to online school.
I was having like mixed feelings about it because I was having like a good time. Like I was hanging out with my friends. I was able to see people and like it was fun, but I kind of knew like it was gonna get boring after a while.
Yeah, I was depressed. I hated it.
That was a surprise. I thought 2 weeks, 4 weeks at the maximum. Oh, they'll take care of this. Sanitize the school. We got this, no problem. The rest of the year? Are you kidding me? Like is that bad? What am I going to do? What are my kids going to do? What am I supposed to be doing? What? That was unexpected for me.
When I heard that we wouldn't be coming back into the buildings at all, I felt really sad. And actually, I can remember feeling a bit of fear in that I wasn't sure what things were going to look like.
You know, PE is supposed to be their break and their movement and their time to be social with other students. And that was why I really love it, because that's their time to be able to interact with each other. And instead it's the opposite because we're isolated. So everything about it was not good.
We were worried a lot about food for some of our families, for students that get breakfast here every morning and lunch here every day. There was a parent group that got started fairly immediately and said, school staff has enough that they're doing. Let us take this off your plates. We'll come pick up the lunches from the cafeteria and actually deliver them to specific homes, apartments, housing communities to get the kids fed.
Administrators and staff struggled to figure out a way to keep students learning and communicate with families while managing their own anxiety about the pandemic. Seattle Public Schools and the Washington State Office of Public Instruction sent out guidelines, but gave no instructions on how to implement these guidelines, a theme that would last throughout remote learning. Immediately, teachers and staff needed to master software applications such as Schoology and Microsoft Teams. To help students and staff adapt to the new normal of remote learning, SPS developed a class schedule aimed at not overwhelming students. Consistency proved to be one of Eckstein's guiding principles to help students and families navigate remote learning more easily.
You know, when it was in the very beginning and we were expected just to post fun stuff, engaging stuff, science exploratory stuff online with no expectations, that was kind of fun. And I posted a lot of stuff. I think it was pretty good.
It was a total challenge. I mean, Mr. Wires and I worked together to try and get some lessons and figure stuff out. Meeting once a week for a half hour and trying to give you some assignments was terrible.
It was challenging. I think once we got everybody connected, it was okay because we got to be really creative, but it was really hard because we were all out of the routine and we were all learning the technology at the same time.
It worked okay. I'm a pretty even-keeled person, so I know some people it was just maybe catastrophic, but for me it was like, okay, well, this is what we do now. Was it ideal? No. Would I have gone into education if this is how I taught kids? Probably not. I think I saw kids for 30 minutes, my classes for 30 minutes one day a week. So it wasn't enough time. It wasn't enough.
Then when business got serious, that was intimidating because I think at that time we were all new to Teams. We were all new to making Schoology assessments and how are we going to translate what we do in class so well into online, and blew our minds. Really was a difficult transition.
Well, in the spring, I feel like it was, kind of confusing because we were just getting used to it. In the spring, I wasn't really retaining anything, and we were in some classes, we were just getting A's just to show up to class. I feel like I wasn't learning.
In the spring, it was more temporary and way easier.
So I thought it was kind of stressful because usually we're at school in a desk and we know where everything is and how to find everything.
At elementary schools, the incoming 6th graders had a different experience.
It was pretty weird at the start because it's you're in 5th grade, you're doing stuff in school, and then you just suddenly get tossed into your own, you're doing school on your computer. And my elementary school, they didn't have any Zoom or Teams meetings, so they would just post work on this place called Seesaw, and then you would do the work. And Seesaw was fairly hard to work around.
Well, it wasn't really the best. I mean, we had one meeting per week. They sent us the assignments through email. We sent the finished work back. It was sort of like that.
In 5th grade, you would
be on there's a lot of projectors, and you could see the screen and you could talk to people whenever you really wanted to, unless the teacher was talking.
In 5th grade, well, it was pretty hard, and I wasn't always completely caught up with everything, so sometimes I'd have to go back and complete work from 2 weeks ago. It was very stressful because this was very new and I didn't really know what was going on. So it wasn't the best, but.
Every aspect of school had changed for students and staff. The predictability of team sports, playing with friends, waking up early for school, sitting in class, eating lunch with friends, gone. For staff, socializing with coworkers, talking to students, using a tried teaching method, gone. These things that we rely on for stability and comfort could no longer be realized. To provide a degree of normalcy in the most abnormal of times, staff tweaked lessons and presentations to offer them online.
Well, we had to pivot. I think that's the word everyone's using right now. So in the springtime, we started doing videos. And at that point, we were doing student videos every other week and teacher videos on the off week.
40 pounds if you were to fill the whole thing. But then you'd be getting wet a little bit, right? Because you're sloshing the water around the top. But anyway, that's a way that you could make it heavier and heavier and harder. So holding.
The U.S. coronavirus death toll now rising above 100,000. This map tracing the outbreak and its fatal explosive spread across the country.
May rolled in with sunny days, but the pandemic continued to worsen. While continuing to post materials online and provide printed versions at meal sites, distributing laptops to students in need became a priority across the district. Laptop rollouts began in earnest and continued throughout the rest of the school year. Now 100% remote, the Eckstein staff created virtual ways to connect with students and with each other.
Hi, it's Miss Levine. Oh, you didn't recognize me? Hold on, let me take this off. Oh, I was just on a bike ride. Hey, did you know that May is Bike Everywhere Month?
It was really kind of glitchy. Everyone was trying to everyone was unmuted and they weren't supposed to. And it was really strange because we were just starting out online, most of us, on Teams at least. And so it was really weird. We went on into breakout rooms and did a virtual scavenger hunt to learn the building, but I didn't really see the point because we were going to be in the building for a while.
So 8th grade promotion, as you know, we were not allowed to host it in any building in our auditorium like we're used to. We knew that was not allowed during our quarantine. So we got creative. So I thought, why don't we line up on 30th all the way down the street below Eckstein? Kids stayed in their own vehicles or on their bikes or walking, but we spread everybody out with their families. And we spread out as a staff and we wore our Eckstein colors and brought signs and played some music. And we had almost all, I would say, of our staff show up to this. We lined that street. It was very fun. And it was really uplifting, especially after not being together for a couple months, to be able to give that proper farewell.
The 2019-2020 school year ended. A collective sigh of relief could be heard as staff and students powered down computers. It was summertime, and everyone needed a chance to relax and recharge. Summer camps, vacations abroad, and indoor visits would have to wait. The summer of 2020 needed to be a time to bank energy and wrap around the idea that remote learning would return in earnest at the beginning of September.
There was like a 3-week to month kind of period of time where I had nothing to do. It was like in the middle of the summer when it kind of got really bad for a while, so nobody hung out with anyone, and I just sat at home. And it was so I remember it was so hot. I would kind of like sit there and be like, this is weird. Like, if I thought about it for a little too long, I'd be like, oh my gosh, there's a global pandemic going on. Like, I'm sitting at my house while a global pandemic is going on. Like, that was definitely weird to think about.
Summer it felt different because I wasn't really able to hang out with anybody.
Well, it was like you couldn't do that much. Like, you can, like, I couldn't go to like a public pool like if I wanted to. They were closed. Or with my friends, I had to wear a mask if like I was around people, or I had to be in like a bubble, which like with a few people, and it was just different. Like, there was not as many people outside when there wasn't, like, if you went to a park, there was like not that many people there.
Today, Seattle Public Schools announced that only remote learning will happen this fall, and that district is not alone.
And I was really sad when I found out over the summer that we still wouldn't be coming back, and we still aren't back. I've been teaching online almost longer, if not actually longer at this point, than I taught in person. So that's interesting.
We're all first year teachers again, because none of us have built a lesson that works really well online.
So I was kind of overwhelmed. I was like, what am I going to do? What is this going to look like? Like, how am I going to make relationships with kids and teach content?
The 2020 school year began with a strong start week of abbreviated school days, giving staff a chance to connect with families, and ensuring that all students had dedicated laptops. Teachers used the extra time to finalize lesson plans as their students created at-home workstations that included bedrooms, kitchens, dining rooms, and anywhere space was available.
I'm just downstairs in like the rec room, I guess, is like what we call it.
My remote learning space is at our dinner table.
I'm in between my kitchen and our TV room, and I'm sitting at a desk.
So I don't have a desk, but I do have this thing above my bed, so I work on my bed. It's actually pretty nice, to be honest. You're just working in your bed. I mean, it's kind of the dream.
Well, I sort of work under my bed because I have a loft bed. So there's like a desk underneath it. It's kind of cool.
Sometimes, like, if I have like an important meeting, I go downstairs and go in my living room and do it.
In the first few days of learning, my dad would just sit in my bed over there, and he would have one computer and I would have another computer, and then I would switch off. He would get one class ready, and then when I was done with this class, he'd hand me the next computer for my next class. So we kept trading off for the first day.
The beginning of the school year is always filled with communications home, paperwork returned, and finalizing student schedules. This year's added challenge was how to safely distribute learning materials to 1,100 students.
So grocery bags were lined up throughout our entire lunchroom. The whole thing was filled, the tables of the lunchroom, with these grocery bags, and teachers could come in, again, space themselves, distance, but drop math workbooks or materials for class into their individual students' bags. We got all prepared as a school, and then we set up the days that parents could drive into the back of the school and pick up their students' belongings. This got crazy because we had a bunch of smoke-filled days where the air quality, due to wildfires down south of us, were prohibiting us from being outside to give these bags of materials out. So we kept having to postpone. We finally did it one rainy Saturday in September, and had parents drive in through the lot, and they would get a number. They would say their student's name. Somebody on a walkie-talkie would read off the student's name to somebody in the cafeteria, who would grab the bag and then bring it out to the car.
Now that materials were delivered, a firm bell schedule in place, and students ready at home, it was time for the 2020-21 school year to begin.
So, like, on Monday and Thursdays, I start with first period. Then I do the asynchronous work. Then usually I have a bit more time, like 10 minutes. So I use the bathroom and do that sort of stuff, get a snack. Then it's second period, same thing, except with lunch. Then we go into the afternoon for third period.
I teach 6 classes, or 3 classes every day. So that means that my evening goes till, and a lot of other teachers as well, but I'm probably working till about 6 o'clock every night, working on various stuff, and then, repeat it the next day. So
I've been kind of preparing as I go. But what I do was try to adapt what I know in teaching in person and to make lessons interesting. Having group work as best as I can in remote teaching.
I feel like sometimes I don't really like it because, like, you can get all your work done in class, like, not that often, but, like, you'll just get really bored.
There's been a lot of big push now, or recognition, that some classes are more challenging for others and the workload could be extreme. I think part of that is the students aren't used to this new system of having 2 hours of one class. And that's a lot of time to spend in a class, 2 hours to try and stay focused on a subject.
Just because, like, having 3 classes a day, it just feels so long.
Some subjects transferred to remote learning more easily than others.
I do take PE, and at the beginning of the class, we usually have these warm-ups we do. Like, we watch a YouTube video about doing the squats, doing the plank, doing this something else.
It's definitely not something that's easy to adapt, and I didn't want to go too content heavy. I think 6 classes online is really hard for middle schoolers, and I don't think PE should include another hard studying class that they have to catch up on homework for. I have like a health focus and a exercise focus, and I just try to keep it fun and light and make sure that they just understand the importance of movement and getting exercise, because we're in quarantine and everybody's just sitting so much. So
I think the Amplified curriculum is well suited to this mode of school, given that it's a lot of online content and not a lot of hands-on. So I'm not worrying about how do I transfer a lab experience into online. So I think that's one thing that's kind of has helped this out.
Over time, students began to adapt to online remote learning.
It's definitely more challenging than when we were in school.
It's harder for like motivation, but it's definitely easier. Like, there's more open note tests, which I've found, which is really helpful because you don't really have. It's not as much of a burden to study or kind of jam everything in and memorize it. So I think it's easier for testing on online school.
And then this year we had like the whole summer to kind of, think about what we were going to do. And it's, I guess, easier to learn because there's more Zoom, like the Zoom calls are helpful. And then just the teachers, I guess, kind of have an idea of what to do.
I don't know. I think it's a lot harder to keep track of everything, like assignments and stuff, but I think it's really helpful when like the due date isn't as important than like normally.
And so to engage them, I hope that the class and the information is engaging. Kids tend to send me emails and ask me things. I have a really high turn-in rate in terms of work for English, for kids doing the detective story. They've been really good. And I think some of online learning allowed for them to go investigate where they wanted their crime to take place and to go interact in their community more. Like, I can't ever let kids during school day, like, walk down to a local park or something.
This, you're having to engage or get interaction with literally 2 initials on the screen in a circle. Nothing to work with. So that's been tough. But I think I'm just working on being persistent about it and hopefully making online interaction a normal. My darlings, if you are just joining us, please refresh or resync your notebook. I want you to have the most updated pages there. I'm going to hush my puppies and let you find that in your notebooks. And then can you unmute and tell me, got it?
Got it.
One person?
Got it.
Got it.
Got it.
Got it.
In the fall, we've really tried a lot of positive reinforcement, a lot of praise, excitement. I am just trying to be out there and wacky and way over the top because I have to act a lot more so that they can see my, my feelings and my excitement easier, because sometimes it isn't conveyed very well. And then I've also found that me being in the building is a lot easier because I can use so many different things that are just like real things.
Yeah, even if they don't sound that enthusiastic, like you still feel like they are kind of enthusiastic. And also, Miss Abel-Neal, she has some cats, and we see them sometimes. They visit us online.
In classes, there are a lot of things that we do like together, like with other students. Like in my geometry class, we go with a bunch of other students and we work together. It's engaging to do that.
Sometimes I get a little sidetracked because I'm like, ooh, my putty is here, I want to play with it. And then I get a little distracted sometimes with like emails popping up. But for the most part, I'm pretty engaged during class.
Sometimes it can be pretty dull because it's like, really, I don't know. Some of my teachers lecture, and that's not really fun.
If you are doing bad or you're feeling bad in a classroom, part of it is the fact that you're being disengaged. So you're not engaged, and part of being engaged is actually making eye contact and looking at, a person. You can see me, but I can't see you, and 90% of communication is totally through facial.
In a situation now where not doing work and not going to class is as easy as just turning off your camera.
And before school started, I think many of us had those lofty aspirations of all kids will have their cameras on. Oh, it'll be easy, no problem. And just, you can get them to turn it on. A rude awakening, come to find you get just the initials, no talking, they're not unmuting their microphone, they're not unmuting their camera, and there's nothing really that you can do about it.
It's literally talking to Jerry Garcia, my stuffed doll here. I mean, no response, no feedback. It's blah.
Yeah, there's little joy in it because it's the interaction that makes teaching fun.
When you ask a question, because of the no camera on, you can't really judge how the question's going until people start responding, right? You can't tell if they get it, they're completely lost.
It's just, I think it has another level of challenge, cameras on during PE, because when you're in class and you're playing games, you don't feel like everybody's looking at you, because they're not. They're in the gym, they're playing something. And at home, with your camera on, everybody really is looking at you. It's not even like an imagination, it's real.
A lot of people thought that students didn't want the cameras on because they were ashamed of what their house looked like and what was going on. the reality is a lot of our students don't like looking at themselves, because when you turn your camera on in Teams, you can see yourself.
Yeah, when all the cameras are off, it's like staring into abyss.
I never turn it on in the morning because I like never get ready for school. Yeah.
But now I'm starting to turn it on more because it's like I've been in it for like 4 months or something now.
Well, sometimes, like this morning, I woke up at 8:59 on accident, so I had 1 minute to get on class, and like I was not looking great, you know?
I typically always keep my camera on unless I have to like go and grab my water bottle across the room, then I turn it off.
Like PE, I keep my camera off just because I don't like exercising in front of the camera.
Keep my camera on most of the time. I don't know. I feel like you can do a lot with your face to like say what you're thinking. So if a teacher like Miss Levine sometimes does really like bad puns or something, and I'll be like, oh, and she'll be like, yeah, Alana doesn't like that one or something. And so I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I kind of keep my camera off because I'm kind of shy, to tell you the truth, and also usually Sophia's in my background and I don't need like everybody looking at her while she's making faces or something.
I just try to be me, and I try to like make people feel like they are talking to a person and not a wall or another object. So I try to like be ready to have it on.
Well, I keep it off. It's just because, like, I'm a teenager. I would rather be in, like, a closed environment than an open one. But, if a teacher definitely tells me to turn it on, I would definitely turn it on. But, yeah, like it off.
Well, I used to keep my camera off, but my mom doesn't like that, so she's making me start to put my camera on, so I'm putting my camera on almost always now.
So building community is something that we have been working on. It is very challenging, especially when our cameras aren't on and we can't be in the presence of one another. But we're trying to do some creative things like lunches that ASB is hosting. We've started a 6th grade lunch once a week. There's a Mandalorian lunch.
We talk about the Mandalorian. We discuss like theories, what we thought was interesting about that episode.
There's enrichment classes that we're trying to provide for students at the end of their school days. So whether it's doing art or video production, there's opportunities to come together. The downside is at the end of the day, we want to get outside or turn off the screens and do something else. And these do require us to continue on with the screens and being together.
Yeah, I'm in library club, and that's really fun because we get to chat about books, and you can be like unmuted the whole time. So I think it's different than like real classes. And also I just joined Game Club and Save the Earth Club.
I help host a unified lunch on Wednesdays, and that's for students with and without disabilities coming together and just kind of hanging out. It's kind of morphed into we do a craft, we do some trivia, we share some recipes, and it's just kind of a hangout time that's become really fun. We usually have lots of adults in there.
Community building means you have folks to help you out, not just one person to help you out. So I'm trying to do more independent building. I'm trying breakout rooms, and so far they're going pretty well. So rely on your friends, rely on your classmates to get things done or to answer your questions.
ASB is the whole point of it is to build community. I think we've been doing a pretty nice job right now. We have our new counselor, Mr. Manzo, is running the podcast group, which I love hearing student voices for that. So hear our voices.
It's important to reflect on what it means to be able to access things. When we say access, we mean how easy or challenging it is to enter some space or use some material.
We have another group of highly motivated students that I'm so impressed because they're cranking out a weekly video. We have a group that does monthly recognition. So they look at the various holidays and they look at the Character Strong monthly, like right now is Respect. And we work on, doing our Instagram posts. We work on getting information out to people through the videos, but also through our Schoology page. And then we have a birthday group, and actually I was just addressing some of them. We send out birthday cards. The Spirit Week.
Monday, we're blue and white. Tuesday is beach day. Wednesday is tie-dye day. Thursday, have a virtual background vacation. And Friday, wear your Halloween costume.
And assemblies group. That one to me has been one of the hardest ones because it's very hard to do an assembly and we've been trying to wrap our heads around it.
Well, during the fall, technical difficulties were, well, there weren't a lot of them, but sometimes it would be kind of hard and we couldn't hear somebody or something. But now it's pretty smooth, and the worst technical difficulty I think we've had is just kids not being able to join a meeting, which delayed class, but it wasn't too bad, so it was okay.
And I basically got kicked out of me. I'm like, wait a second, I was in the meeting, and I tried entering again. And they were like, why weren't you answering me? I was like, I was still waiting for you to let me. She's like, well, that explains why I kept asking you questions and you wouldn't answer.
Sometimes because my mom and I, we both are on the Wi-Fi at the same time, so it's really bad. And also we have, multiple Wi-Fis, and sometimes some of them, don't work, so then I have to switch it, and then it, stops everything.
On, freezing frames. And not good audio, and sometimes the screen not seeing it.
There's internet issues, there's screen freezing up issues, there are chat issues sometimes.
I don't think that in the pandemic or this remote teaching we have done the best we can to sort of shift it up. Right, we're teaching middle school as we used to know it, and for 6th graders currently, I don't think it's working.
The most challenging thing for me has been remembering everything I need to do, then actually doing it without putting it off until a couple days before. Because that happened a couple times, and I was like, oh boy.
We just have free reign of whatever, and we can be eating or watching something, and it's just it's tough for me.
Because ever since online school, I started procrastinating a lot, and I stopped kind of working as hard, I feel like.
I think it's a lot harder because you can't just ask a lot of questions, especially when you're doing the work on your own.
I feel like it's way harder to turn in work on time. I feel like since you're already on Zoom, Teams for so long, and then you have to keep working on homework on the computer. I feel like it's just kind of hard for me.
The isolation of just not having that social experience, having a different kind of social experience. I think that more than anything, when I talk to kids, that is a part of what's happening. They're on their own, to figure out all their work. That doesn't mean that they don't have adults helping them, but they don't have that same connectivity with peers. So the relationship of school is very different to a place of challenge. Keeping up with the schoolwork is the most material example of it. It's a lot of work. It's really difficult to manage. It's not real clear what the async time is. So there's a lot of late and missing assignments. And I think that is all this piece of even though there would be more homework and more instruction if we were in the school, there'd be the physical presence of working on it together and going through it together. And when you strip that out, it's easy to just miss things, not have things. And so the most obvious material version of what I feel like is really driving this is that missing assignments, late assignments, all this work.
I just get so tired. I can like barely even wake up to a class online. So yeah, definitely made me more like lazy.
And also the news is kind of really depressing now. We listen to like NPR and stuff like every morning, and it can be like really depressing. It's like 3,000,000 deaths or whatever, and it's like kind of depressing. It's like, oh gosh, okay, thanks for that information.
Well, my dad's downstairs and I haven't seen him in like forever, so I guess that's sort of hard.
I know some of them have been able to have like a sleepover because they're in a bubble and stuff, and like it's just hard because I can't do that.
It's been hard. I haven't had much socializing other than school. Like I haven't, because like we'd usually like go to the movies or something like that, and we haven't been able to do much.
Just being isolated from other people, not being able to like go to their houses.
Like when we're doing like the async time, I just like go on my phone and I'm like, okay, I actually need to get off my phone so I can do my work. But then time goes by really fast and then I just like miss all my work, and that's when I get behind.
It's been really hard to just be hanging out with my cats and I. It's hard to be so isolated.
The hardest part is really not being able to get a hold of the kids that are like withdrawn, MIA, totally not coming to class, no matter how many chats or emails or phone calls or all of this. You know, there's a certain percentage of kids that I've never even heard their voice. And I've rarely even seen their icon pop up. And that, to me, as someone who wants to include everybody, is really tough.
In November, staff, students, and families dealt with an election that threatened to divide a nation.
In the structured academic controversy, you can also find your own arguments, and you get to choose which side. And there were con to get rid of the Electoral College, and then pro-Electoral College to keep the Electoral College.
Then, gearing up for the holidays meant tough decisions about family gatherings and celebrations as the pandemic continued to roar through the nation and the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Remote teaching became much more easy for me, and I got into a groove. I got really savvy about what I was doing. We had cool exit tickets that were checking in. I got really good with my screens. I got really good with monitoring the chat.
The new year brought expectations for a vaccine. It also brought preparations to bring some students back for in-person learning and the need for levity as the 1-year anniversary of remote learning approached.
You're talking, one day I turned my camera screen cover and then I was talking and then I totally realized no camera on, no screen. The kids were like, Mrs. Port, where are you? Where are you?
Sometimes we'll have students fall asleep in front of the computer, and I find that kind of adorable and kind of funny.
Best thing was I'm teaching a class and the fire alarm goes off in my building and I'm kind of ignoring it. And I'm like, it's okay. And then I'm like, don't worry about the sounds. It's fire. My building's not going to burn down. I'm looking out my window and I see, oh wait, there is smoke coming out. I better go, kids. And the kids were like, have you called the fire department? Are you going to be okay? They're doing this all in chat. It was the best thing ever.
Like I said, I take song requests. So that class requested this song called Bluebird. And it's like this anime theme song or something. It's a little, whatever, it's a song. Okay, so it's playing. And I had just been talking about how, let's manifest good. And the song Bluebird was playing and this huge crash happened in the window right next to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? and a bluebird had flown into the window really super dramatically and fell down dead. It was all sprawled under the window, and I was like, oh my God, it's a bluebird and it's dead. Oh God, it's so horrible. I think I might have to leave for a second because my cat and my puppy, like, it's gonna be horrible. This is awful. And it was literally, its wings were sprawled, and it was like, I was trying to bring the camera. They wanted to see it, but it wouldn't reach. And I was like, it's horrible. So anyway, it was very distracting, and I was talking, and I was trying to get on with class, but I was very shaken. So then a couple minutes later, I was like, let's just think better thoughts, you guys, better thoughts. It's not unlucky. And then I looked out, and it had come back to life, and it revived itself, and it was like concussed and just like shaking around, like standing there. And I was like, you guys, your energy is working. It's happening. The bird is back alive.
I was in the middle of a lecture, and my cat came up, jumped on my desk, and swatted me in the face as hard as he could, and like cut my cheek a little bit, and then just ran off. And this was in one of my 7th grade classes, and the whole class just bursted out in laughter. Like, kids had never turned on their camera before, turned on their cameras. They're like, what was that? It was a drive-by kitty. And like, that was probably the funniest thing that happened in my class.
And I've had a couple kids show up with like no shirts on, which is not my favorite thing in the world. I want you to be dressed. I've told the children many times, I'm like, I don't care if you're in bed, I don't care if you're in pajamas, but you have to physically be upright and you have to physically be clothed. It would need to be the same as if you were at school.
Mounting concerns about the effects of remote learning on students' mental health drove media, politicians, and institutions to push for in-person learning. SPS continued to prepare school buildings for the eventual return of students. This included reconfiguring classrooms, updating HVAC systems, and creating sanitation stations.
I'm not worried about coming back in. I mean, the only way we're going to go back in is if it's massive vaccinations, the level of people who have it.
I don't want to become so accustomed to remote teaching that I lose my edge or forget how to classroom teach. That worries me.
They won't know each other. Like, if you were in 7th and 8th grade, then you would know each other. But I think they're going to have like a lot of anxiety about coming, as much as they did about starting this year, about coming live. And I think there's going to be a whole nother like adapting to school that will happen because they've been in this other world for so long.
I think it's going to be hard when we go back because the ability to have that sustained attention without a device is a skill they're not practicing right now.
I mean, as long as the COVID threat has been reduced enough with the vaccine and everything, I'm not really worried. I'm welcoming it. Let's do it. Let's go back.
Well, I'm worried about names. So that's the thing. So many names. I mean, I know definitely a lot of people. So I'm worried I'm gonna say the wrong name.
Honestly, whenever there's a vaccine and it's safe, I don't want to go to school when there's still possible ways to get COVID. I want to go when it's safe since there's so many people.
It will be a lot. Since I kind of got used to online school, I feel like it's going to be a big change again.
I think it'll be weird because we will have been so used to using our own personal devices and being stuck with siblings and family that, yeah.
But I'm just thinking at the deepest level just about staff and student and family safety.
We have some new information now about that breaking news we mentioned just a few moments ago. Governor Inslee says the state is adding educators and licensed child care workers to Washington's Phase 1B1 immediately. Teachers had been scheduled to be part of the next tier, but they are now moving that up.
Good morning. After 1 year of closure of our schools, the time has come for every child in the state of Washington to have access to on-site instruction.
Though Eckstein had been offering in-person services to some students in special education programs, the governor's mandate meant that many more students would return to the building for in-person instruction.
I think I've heard a lot of people reference the sweet spot, like we've hit a sweet spot. And I think in many ways, a lot of students have in terms of expectations, so that there is a bit of a balance now. But now we're in the calm before the storm now.
You know what? And I keep on thinking about how we were feeling about going to remote in August and September. And we were thinking, no way, absolutely no snapping way are we going to be able to do this. No way. And then lo and behold, like September, October, November, guess what? We're doing it. And we're doing it with style and grace to the best of our abilities. And holy cow, like, yeah, we're awesome. So I think about that, and what I thought in August was impossible, we are making possible. And so I'm, to come and say, hey, in April, we're gonna start coming back in person. My immediate thought is absolutely no way, no snapping way. But then we made August happen, we made remote happen, so bring on the upheaval. We're gonna make this happen too. And I also have to think that the reason that we're doing this, because of mental health crisis with kids and teens now, that is something that is more important than my comfort zone. We're not in this to be comfortable. We're in this to do what's best for kids.
The week before spring break in April saw the return of students to elementary schools and an intense push to train middle and high school staff on how to use personal protective equipment, create a safe environment, and offer learning to students who wanted to return, as well as those who didn't.
Online synchronous instruction in the morning supports students by maintaining their current class schedule. Opportunities for afternoon in-person and/or remote small group support by content area teachers will be provided for all students.
Okay, a little bit about the cohorts. Cohort A is going to be our hybrid cohort. They will be coming in Monday and Tuesday afternoon. Cohort B, hybrid kids, they're going to be coming in Thursday and Friday afternoons, and Cohort C is 100% fully remote. Class periods, they are longer in the afternoons to meet the governor's proclamation and the number of hours, 80.2, that we need to get through before the end of the year. There are reasons why kids aren't going to be able to access in-person learning in the afternoons. And there's big equity issues around this. There's transportation, worries about the pandemic and how it has impacted certain racial groups more than others, safety concerns. There's just a lot. And so we are responsible for checking in on these kids and trying to give them the best experience that we possibly can during this time.
These morning sessions are of the utmost importance because that is the only time that we will have a chance to actually see all of our students together. And as usual, I would be posting some kind of an exit ticket at the end of the period for a check-in for understandings. You can't really manage online, or I cannot manage online kids at home and checking in with them while I'm teaching kids at school. So I tried to think of types of enrichment activities that kids could do here at school, and the kids can do the similar activities at home.
But it seems like it's not gonna work. Just honestly opinion. Like right now we're saying do the 3 50-minute online courses in the morning and then like kind of a study hall 3-hour where we're in one teacher, one group of kids that have all a bunch of different classes. I'm gonna try to make it work. I guess it's gonna be like a study hall, let's get our work done, and then let's do something fun. And maybe go outside. I think that's the key.
I feel like I'm standing on a beach watching a tsunami wave approach. That's how I feel. It's just, there's so many unknowns and so many, we know the chaos is coming. But yeah, there's part of me that's excited because, again, going back to that relationship building piece, it's like, oh, that could be kind of fun. But then am I going to be in the corner with the mask on, looking like a creepy doctor and like can't actually engage? And so, big tsunami wave. That's what I'll go with.
Back here at home tonight, the state's largest school district finally welcomed back all grades today for in-person instruction, but a large percentage of kids did not return to school here in Seattle today.
April 19th, 2021 was the first day of a hybrid method of in-person learning. Roughly 85% of Eckstein's students opted to return to the building. Any person entering a school building needed to attest that they were not sick or had not been exposed to COVID-19. With over 400 students coming to the building at a time, this proved challenging. SBS implemented an electronic attestation form that generated an Excel spreadsheet with over 75 columns. Staff at Eckstein needed to organize this data to provide individual class lists to over 40 teachers, with up to 15 students every day, so that teachers could quickly verify that their students attested prior to entering the building. Since check-in needed to be completed outside, cones with teachers' names were spaced out on the athletic field where students lined up, and teachers confirmed attestation, all while masked and distanced from each other. Then teachers led their classes into the building through different doors to avoid bottlenecking.
It feels really weird because it's like almost the end of the year and we're just coming back. It feels like it's all happening so fast.
Yeah, I'm not with most of my friends, but yeah, I'm kind of happy to be back, yeah.
I'm kind of nervous, excited to see everyone.
It feels like different than what it should be like, but at the same time, I'm just really excited to be able to be somewhere, so.
I was nervous. I was really nervous because I didn't know if I'd remember where all my classes were. I was also excited though.
Well, at first I think everyone was like still getting adjusted to being back. So it felt like very weird and like you're like trying to scooch as far away from people in the hallway as you can. You're like trying to be as safe as possible. And you're not really comfortable yet with like your surroundings and how things are.
So I think a lot of people were really excited to go back to normal school, and it's not normal school. So I think that was difficult for me because I thought, oh great, now everything's going back to normal, and it hasn't at all.
Well, we'd go in person and wait outside in the field for a while, then we'd go into the classroom. And everybody doesn't like to talk as much. So even when the teacher says, everybody you can talk and share your ideas, nobody does talk. They're all silent.
Well, there's like a huge change in schedule, so yeah, I had to adjust to that, and I didn't really like it. Because they made us have shorter lunchtime, and I'm not a big fan of that.
So it's like she'd have a computer over here, and then she's right here, and then the class is like all around there. So then she'd like talk. So then we remote people can hear her, and they can hear her. I mean, I didn't feel left out or anything, though I did feel like I was learning something, which was good.
The hybrid model is fairly atrocious in terms of delivering instruction, teaching, and then checking for any understanding. No, the hybrid model is not working for teaching remotely. Our morning sessions are too rushed, are very disjointed. If you show up a tiny bit late, you've missed something. It's very challenging, and I don't think it's easier for me, and I don't think it's easier for kids.
So it's sort of like some people would like forget to mention cohort C and like assume we knew what to do, and I guess that's true, but I don't know if like other kids knew what to do that were in cohort C. So
Keeping students and staff infection-free continued to be a major concern for staff, students, and their families until the end of the school year.
My parents really didn't want me going back until I'm vaccinated, which I will be able to get vaccinated this summer around July.
I don't know when they have time to wash their hands frequently. We're not asking them to do so. I don't see people funneling people into the bathrooms to wash up between classes. It would be nice if we washed up before going from the field inside, right? But we don't do that either. So I think they're trying to be safe, but I think the simple hand washing, social distance, and masks are... we got our masks on most of the time. I have a sink in my classroom and was told not to use it because the hand washing sign couldn't be hung above it, my lab bench sink. But the one at the back of the room with paper towels and soap right next to it had a sign put there. And then upon inspection, I was told to shut it down.
Yeah, I feel very safe. They're taking a lot of precautions. They're wiping down everything. We're staying 6 feet apart in all the classrooms. We're wiping down the sports equipment. So yeah, I feel very safe.
Yeah, I feel safe in the building during COVID because everybody has their masks on and there's hand sanitizer and everything feels safe because people are also getting vaccinated, so that's nice.
The vaccination rate in Seattle steadily increased as more vaccines became available. When vaccines were approved for people 12 years old and up, SPS partnered with the Seattle Fire Department to bring vaccination clinics to schools, including Eckstein Middle School.
So I just want to thank you for your amazing work with our students over the past 15 months in the toughest of circumstances. Thank you for your collaboration, for your support of each other, and as our admin team as we weathered this storm together. There's a quote I've had in front of me throughout the year that I look at often, and it says, "She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails." And we've all done just that, and we've made many adjustments as we've gone through this year together. So thank you. Hello, 8th graders, our Eckstein class of 2021. As your principal, I first want to acknowledge that this was not the 8th grade year any of us expected for your final year at Eckstein Middle School. COVID-19 certainly changed the trajectory of your 8th grade year, and you've handled it with grace. You've shown grit and been as positive as you possibly could be in our new world of remote and hybrid learning. On behalf of your Eckstein staff, we thank you, we celebrate you, and we can't wait to hear about all your future adventures and all of your successes. Now it's your time to fly, Eckstein Eagles. Go get out there in the world and do great things. Thank you.
Well, my parents are telling me that we're living in a crazy time right now. So I feel like this time is going to be passed on through generations and generations. Like, this is a time nobody's going to forget. I feel like this is always going to be known as the coronavirus.
I think maybe people still maybe like stay like, I guess, on alert like about the virus and stuff, just because we don't know if it'll actually go away.
Definitely the experience and the memories of like online learning, and like I feel like people were more in 7th grade or something, like the 6th graders would be like, oh, they were in online learning when they were in 6th grade.
It will be over whether you like it or not, and that it was something that people always have in their memories, teachers, students, parents, guardians. Everyone will probably remember some aspect of it.
I think one of the biggest blessings is I can't tell you how many times, and I think it's my 21st or 2nd year of teaching, how many times kids are like, I hate school, I don't want to go to school, school's such a drag, I wish I wasn't here. And I'm always like, no, you don't. this is where everybody is. You want to be here. And it took about 2 weeks of no school, and kids, their parents, society, everyone wants them back in school. And I honestly think teachers and kids want them back the most. So
I hope that the changes in the future will allow us to continue to try to do things differently, because doing things the way that they had been doing hasn't been working for the planet. Buying lots of stuff and having lots of stuff and shopping for stuff whenever we feel like having more stuff isn't working for the planet.
I want to think that we would, as humans, learn something about this, but I also know that humans have a very short memory. And, the farther out we get from this, the more relaxed and lazy our habits will become. And we will find ourselves in this sullen trap once again.
What we've gained from this time, hopefully, is some resiliency. It's when we look back, when we finally go back in the schools, like, wow, I don't want to forget this time because it's part of who we are.
Hopefully, this pandemic has taught everyone, and not just our school, just like everyone in society, what to do better next time. And I think we did a lot. I think we made a lot of really smart decisions, and I just don't want people to view this pandemic as like an overreaction, and then the next time something happens, they don't respond, right? Because of this. I think that's my biggest fear coming out of this kind of pandemic.
That we are going to learn that it takes all of us to be a part of something bigger than just ourselves, and trying to think about not just what I want to do selfishly, but what I am doing potentially affects everybody around me and my community, which then projects way out from there. It affects other communities and other states and countries, and just how we're a part of this big world, and we all need to do our parts.
And in that planning for return is the chance to make changes, big systemic changes. If people would say now's not the time for that, then there's never a time for that. Now is exactly the time for that. And without this experience, we wouldn't be at that place. So I would say that the hope that I have in this is it may bring us to a national conversation, a state conversation, a district conversation, a neighborhood conversation, and a school conversation about where we can come back better with some really new thinking about what education can be for kids and families. And so that's where I find a lot of hope, actually, right now.
I think I just want to say, acknowledge everybody in this process, be it on the teacher admin side, be it on the student side, be it on the parent side. This has been tough. This has been difficult for everyone, and I think everyone has made the best of it, and that's pretty darn awesome. And I also want to point, I guess the other thing, not that you forgot, but so often I see in news reports it's about how students are behind, et cetera, et cetera. I've seen a lot of examples as well where students have been thriving in this environment, and so I don't want to only focus on the negative, because students have really adapted well. They've learned a lot of new technology skills. So there are positives in this. I don't wish it upon anybody, but there are positives in this situation, and we should celebrate those. So yeah.